So I think we can, okay. I think we're ready to go soon. I'll just have a quick look and see where we are. And yeah, I think we're ready to go. So hello there, folks, all around the world. Delighted you're back this week to see the next whyr presentation. My name is Kevin O'Brien, and I'm joined by Ahmadou Dicko, and he is from Dakar in Senegal. And he's here to talk today about humanitarian analysis and so I think I'll just hand over to Ahmadou now. So I think I should just make you the host. Is that right?
I think there's no need. You can still stay the host. I can just share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
So I think we're good to go. Ahmadou, I will just hand over to you and let you work away there. So best of luck with it. We'll take some questions at the end. Folks, just if you want to say hello and tell us where you are in the world on the YouTube channel, that's great. We're very curious about where everyone is. We just spotted somebody from Mali there as well, and somebody from right on the border of Poland and Belarus. We're always very curious about this. But anyway, I'll hand over to Ahmadou and we'll get going there. So take it away, Ahmadou.
All right, thanks. Thanks a lot, Kevin. And hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this call. This presentation. I'm doing so many calls these days that I'm saying just call like this. Let me put it on full screen. Much better. So thanks all. My name is Ahmadou. I'm originally from Mali, but I live in Dakar, Senegal, where I work as a statistical consultant and an economist. I currently work with the FAO, which is the UN organization working on food security and agriculture, and also co-founder of a statistical consulting firm named Statistics for Development, because I specialize really on the use of data for development and humanitarians. That's the only thing I did actually after graduating in statistics and doing my PhD in climate change economics. So I always applied, and used data for good. So I hope to share with you today, some of the nice thing we are doing and other people I know are doing, and in general what humanitarians are really doing with data. Okay, so let's start by why we are doing this and why humanitarian data analysis before coming to R. I think for people living in West Africa, we all remember the 2014 Ebola outbreak. And it was really, really bad. I think if I recall correctly, like 11,000 people died. And it was really a huge crisis. And during this crisis, I was in the region still. And I remember seeing many organizations coming in the region and working to organize information, create figures, and it was really difficult to get the latest information. And I think I just realized at the time that coordinating and working on data is really, really key to get the right information at the right time. Another crisis, not in Africa, but in Asia, was the 2015 Nepal earthquake. I think around 9,000 people died also. It was a 7.8 magnitude earthquake. It's a big one. And I think people did also a good job creating information and gathering data and making sure people that can help on the field get the latest information and the most accurate one. And it's really a challenge when you are in a place, in a remote area without a good internet connection or good hardware. And finally, currently people living in East Africa, they are experiencing an invasion of desert locusts. These are really, really bad insects. They eat a lot of almost everything that crops, grass, and the impact on food and security is really, really huge. So I think there is a lot of people now suffering because of them. And it's not done yet. That's why I put 2019 now. I think we are still experiencing, the impact of this insect in this area. And I think my organization, the one I'm working with, FAO, are really doing a good job trying to reduce the impact and working with them, working with population and the government and other organizations really to solve this issue. So these three things all have in common something actually. It's true, it's crisis, and we are currently living one right now with COVID-19. And usually when we need to have information as soon as possible, and we want to get the best information that we can have to respond, because I think the most important thing is like the response. So here is like an OCHA document. OCHA is the UN Organization for Humanitarian Coordination. So I also worked with them for a few years as lead of the humanitarian data, the humanitarian data lead in West Africa. So you can see in this document that there's a lot of information. There's a map, there is a bar chart, there's a lot of figures say, okay, we target 40 million people. It's in Yemen where you still have a crisis. And it shows really what we can do in food to target food security, to target shelter, target many other things actually, and like the number of organizations working there. So it's really, really crucial information for the response. So you see that in this field, there is really a need, and people are really doing an amazing job creating information. People at OCHA and FAO, WFP, other humanitarian organizations, NGOs like REACH, they are really, really on the field working hard to make sure that people get the right information. So that's why information is key. And when it comes to information, in this day and age, I think data scientists and data analysts, I use the term. For me, it's almost the same thing. I know we can discuss this, but in this presentation, I will assume data analyst equal data scientists. And here it's a nice illustration from Andre Verity from OCHA. He's really a key person in the world of humanitarian information management. Actually, he did a lot of really groundbreaking work, and he wrote this nice blog about humanitarian. I think it was like 3, 4 years or 5 years ago. It was really a long time, and he was already like showing things that people are doing now. So pretty much in advance. So basically, right now in the humanitarian world, we still don't have much data scientists, I think, my understanding. And but organizations tend now to understand the need of having this type of profile that understand very well the humanitarian sector. So that's what we call the business side. Actually, they understand how to make an appeal, how the response works, and how to do many things like what is the inter-cluster coordination and so many important concepts like this. And then we go to concepts that we probably understand better as analysts, data scientists, GIS, or any other quantitative position like GIS and mapping, survey methodology, how to do infographics and visualization, how to manage your data, how to apply statistics to your data, and how to use also programming. There's also a lot of discussion, and you have to do meeting, trainings. So this is really a kind of a balanced position, and you don't have one person that can do all of this. I think this unicorn doesn't exist also in our field. So let's go. So having said that, actually, this is how it was a few years ago, and I think it's still like that pretty much today. If you take the majority of data product, you can see, like the one I showed about the response in Yemen. The way they create this type of document usually is you get raw data from analysts in Excel format usually. So the data is tabulated in Excel, and the table are shared to another colleague that's working on that using like a kind of design software like Adobe Illustrator usually. So it's copy and paste. And a part of the data is joined to another map in ArcGIS, and they blend everything into InDesign to create a final product. So there's more than one person. It's not a problem. But there's a lot of copy and pasting and clicking. And I think you can see where we can have some issue. And I think all the software are like kind of expensive if you look at the price of ArcGIS or the Adobe suite of software. So that's how it is actually. And it's not an example for directly linked to humanitarian, but I think people that care much about reproducibility, you know, about this analysis of Reinhardt and Rogoff. It's like kind of the canonical example of why we should go for reproducibility. And I think all the figures I cited at the beginning of the presentation, like the number of people that died from Ebola, people that we are trying to help, these are crucial figures. So we need to do our best to make sure that this information is really accurate. And when we don't have a reproducible process, it's really easy to do some mistake. We just do a copy and pasting, putting the wrong data on Excel, and you don't have this loop to really change and modify if you have an error or if you have a new data coming in. I really like this workflow in the R for Data Science book shared by, written by Adley and colleagues. And I think that's the way I see data analysis. Usually you import data that you clean, and then you have this loop where you visualize, transform, or even you can even do a model and discuss also with your colleagues and see how you can really improve what you are doing. And then when you're happy about your result, you communicate. And this is really, I really like the loop aspect of it because I think it shows that it's not just a linear process, actually. So why R and how R can help? If you recall, this is how it is done. We have so many tools like Excel, ArcGIS, Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe InDesign. I don't have anything against this tool, actually. I think they are all fine. But when you want to have a reproducible workflow, I think it's tend to be difficult to use them. And R is really, really great because it's open source and free first. And there is a great community. I will probably talk about that at the end of the presentation. I wrote 50,000 packages, but I'm not even sure I'm right. I'm sure maybe it's more than that. Maybe someone can correct me on the chat. And yeah, and also like this presentation, I think it was like 1 or 2 years ago. I'm not into a language war. I like Python as well. But it was really interesting to see that R is more the Batman and Python is Superman. And since Batman is way cooler than Superman, so yeah, we have to stick to to R. And with R, the workflow is more like this. You can ingest at the same time your raw data, and with raw data we can include maps, but in the flow I just separated maps and raw data because I think with the other workflow, that's how it was made. So you can ingest all the data directly into R, created all the output you want, the table, the graphics, and everything. And you can even type all of this into an R Markdown document and create directly a document that you can send to management and to your boss. You can have hybrid way to do this, like creating all the output in R and still use, for example, the Adobe suite. It's still better than just doing copy and pasting. So I think that's the workflow we apply as much as we can, and that's also the approach we want people to use more, because not because we like and we love R, but just because we think it's just safer like this, and you can easily spot error when you know how to use R, of course, and you can reproduce analysis, you can share your analysis with colleagues. So I see a lot of advantages of using this approach. So let's come again to this nice illustration. And I would just, for the rest of the slide, I would just show some example of colleagues, not all of them are mine, and that are doing a really good job using R, sometimes in conditions that are not really easy. So when it comes to data management, I like this code, for example, for one of my friends working at WFP. So they're working a lot on food security assessment. They get data from many, many places, and they have a lot of people collecting data for them. So he come up with a system to monitor and check the data and be sure that you don't have a lot of mistake when you look at each enumerator. So it was really funny because I think I never saw someone just doing this type of analysis just for checking this angle of data quality. And when you're on the field and you do what they are doing, it makes perfectly sense. So you can spot things that are suspicious, for example, and so that's really cool. The other thing is like you can also anonymize data. He showed, for example, in this code how to use the anonymizer package, and you have a lot of algorithm, for example, to protect people identity. I think I will not cover much about data protection. It's a topic on its own, and I think Humanitarian are doing a lot of work, particularly using statistical disclosure control approach, differential privacy. I think there's a lot of discussion right now to protect people and make sure that I think information are not disclosed. So, and in statistics, I will just show something, just one example, and because it's really cool, and it's from an organization called Our Epidemic Consortium. Sometimes you see Recon API. They are really building nice tools to do health and work on health emergencies. So, like the past Ebola outbreak, and I don't know if I can say past, but the Ebola outbreak, the recent one in DRC in Congo. They sent a lot of people there to work and create information, and they are doing a really, really wonderful job. And the good thing about what they are doing is like they are creating really a rich ecosystem of our package, and they have pipelines that are fully reproducible based on R Markdown. This is, for example, one of the data set from the MERS, another coronavirus in Korea, I think in 2015. So it shows, for example, how people are linked, and it uses a social network analysis and many types of statistics to aggregate and do many cool stuff. So I didn't really show the code here, just the output, but just to show you that you can do really this type of things. So I will share the slide, I think, and I put all the links. There is they are doing a really, really good job. I think it's a good approach, and it's a consortium of people, probably like with academics, some of them working with NGOs. And they all have this in common to create our tools that make health emergencies and the analysis of outbreak really easier and fully reproducible. Information management is like one of the not the most important aspect, but you have many more people working in information management than statistics and even data management, because I think it's probably for historical reason, and maybe because OCHA was as a leader and for the humanitarian sector is really good at information management. So it covers GIS and mapping and creating nice infographics and visualization, now more web development and other things. So I will show quickly some example. This is one of mine. And it was based on a tweet, actually. A good friend of mine, Jose Ruego Cabrera, he's working with the crisis group. He's an expert on conflict. And one of the main drivers of insecurity and humanitarian crisis in the Sahel is really this conflict. And he is doing a good job analyzing this data. So usually he's tweeting some nice data and sharing some nice graphs that are interactive. So he shared this, and I thought to myself, maybe it's a good idea to try to do this in R2 and see if. And I think at the time the GG Animate package was really like the thing, and a new version, was just arriving with a lot of good things. So I said, okay, maybe I should try something. So first, let me download some data. I need a map. There is a map background, so I need a map. So, okay, I know the countries is my region. We call this region Sahel. So I will need Mali, Burkina, Niger, Mauritania, and Chad. So there is this new package I built. It's not yet on CRAN. but it allows you to really quickly get data at admin level 0, admin the country, admin level 1, the region, admin level 2, a little bit like GIDM or our natural health package. It's really cool. So, but it's not interactive. I still miss a lot of things, interactivity and the data and conflict. So for the data and conflict, I also use a second package of mine, which is the HDX. So HDX stands for Humanitarian Data Exchange. I was working for the Center for Humanitarian Data for like almost 3 years as head of the team in the Sahel. And I think during that time, I built this because I wanted to quickly get data from the platform. So the package just tap into the API of HDX, and you can use a lot of cool things like Solar Query. And I will share also the link so that you can see the platform. It's really cool that you have a lot of humanitarian data set. It's like the place to go when you want to play with humanitarian data set, then go to HDX. I really hope that one day we have a tidy Tuesday on humanitarian data set. Maybe I propose something, because I see a lot of wonderful visualization these days. So I query for conflict data, and in my query, I say, okay, I want these countries from the organization ACLED. ACLED is an organization doing also a good job curating and sharing a data set of violent events and protest and even things related to jihadism and stuff like this. So I take the data from ACLED, and it's not in a format where I can use it. It's some HDX dataset, which is like an object containing the dataset I need. And I will just spare you all the code because it's a little bit long, but I wrote a blog post showing how to do this, and you have the link on the presentation. But basically, I just merge the dataset, the 5 dataset, and I just add it into a ggAnimate map. And the final result is this map. Okay, the color are not the same as Jose color, but I think it shows almost the same type of information. And the good thing about this is, like, I have my code with me and I can rerun it whenever I want and just update it quickly and not click on a software to do that. Actually, Jose also uses he's a R user, but the visualization I showed was in Tableau because he's also really good on it. All right, so maybe what I can do now is to show you some other visualization that are really interesting. This one is was made by Reach. And Reach is an organization working on assessment. They are doing a really good job. They are really good. I think this is really the core skills, like doing rapid assessment when there is a crisis and monitor and have information quickly. So, for example, here it's in Ukraine, and they are monitoring the number of people displaced in some region. So you can see here, like if I click, then I have a nice looking time series chart here. So it's a really, really cool shiny app. And up. Okay, let me come back to the slide. The other example I wanted to show you is another shiny app, also really, really useful. This one was done by Andy South under the AfriMapR project. AfriMapR is a really also cool project because they are trying to make sure that we have access to health facilities information. And with this COVID-19 crisis, and even before that, we just realized that we are lacking a lot of information. For example, let's say I go to Burkina Faso, and I want to know how many health facilities I have in my neighborhood. It's information that are not public, actually. And what AfriMapR did is really to dig and work to get data and put data in a nice format. There's a lot of work to get to this visualization. and they compare the data based on the source. So, for example, you have data from WHO, we have data from the Global Mapping Health Site Project, and I think it's really useful and something that government and people working on the field can actually use. And the Shiny app is really, really nice also. I think simple and you can do a lot of stuff. So now I think the next step will be to see how to blend information when you have multiple sources. I am a collaborator also on this project because I believe in what they are doing, and it's really something that I hope will be sustainable and that will continue to improve. So quickly, just to show, I mentioned why we are using R at the beginning of my presentation. And I think one of the big reasons all of us here are using R or want to use R is also because of community. I think the R community is amazing and we all agree. Sometimes you can say R is a clunky language, you can say some stuff like this. But when it comes to the community, I think it's really, really one of the best. It's inclusive. And for example, the work we are doing as Africa R, I know I saw some friends from Africa R, I know that Shell is around, probably Dennis and others. They are doing a really good job to make sure to make sure that people know about R and how to help them set up R user group and really raise awareness about this wonderful tool. Forward also doing the same type of work, but overall in the world, making sure that it's inclusive and many people can use R, and they are doing also a really, really good job. So this is just a few examples. Afrimapa mentioned it earlier, and we have also a Skype group called Humanitarians, and also a discourse website where we share tips, information, and we discuss about the use of R in the humanitarian sector. So it's not exclusive. There's so many groups and people doing nice things. I mentioned our Recon API and also other organizations that are doing really a good job. I think when it comes to the use, REACH is really good. WFP, FAO, we are using R to monitor SDG, for example, and also UNOCHA, they use a lot R, I mean, on a daily basis on the operation. So it's now, I think, more and more used by analysts, and that's a really good news. But there are still things we can improve, actually, and reproducibility is not really mainstream. It's not like in the academic field where people now, it's de facto the way to publish, and you don't even have the choice sometimes. I wish it could be something like that for us. But to be honest, we are dealing with crises and emergencies, and in the middle of an emergency or something, I think the fastest approach will always win, and we just want good enough because there is no time. Time is just like we are creating information to save lives, so we tend to prioritize good enough rather than just the perfect textbook approach to do things. So there's this trade-off we have to do every time. We have to improve on tools and pipelines and everything. That's why organizations working on that are doing a good job. I really like our OpenSci for what they created. That's why I think our API, they have a good model because it's really closer to what our OpenSci does, but for health emergencies. So I think I wish that we can do more things like that. For example, for us working on food security, FAO and WFP, maybe we can discuss and see how we can improve like all the tools to measure and food and security and be better at our work. And there is so many things we can say about R and humanitarian, but I really wanted this presentation to be short and show you just few showcases. There's so many things, so many analysis, so many cool stuff people are doing. I will share the links to get in touch with the organization and to follow their work, the GitHub repo. And I will see also if some of you that are interested to apply these techniques can join also the humanitarian Skype and discuss group to discuss and see what we are doing. So that's it for me, and thank you again.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks for that. Thanks very much for that, Ahmadou. It was great. I'm just going to start monitoring the questions on the YouTube channel, but for the moment, I'll ask a few from myself. Just when we were watching the, okay, sorry, just one has come in. On the slide where you select male or female, how do you add selection option on the slides?
How do you, okay. I mean, this one is, it's a HTML widget. So it's like an Markdown document is an HTML widget when you, so basically it's just an HTML page. So I just included this. It's just like when you are doing an, let's say a leaflet map in a Sharingan presentation in R. So when we are doing this, usually it's a HTML widget. So this one, it's not me. I didn't do any shiny app here. It's really the work of the ARC or the API guy. It's the package. So it allows you directly to do that. So if you run the code that does this on our studio, you will have it on the pane and you can select this. Maybe I can show you quickly the code. Yeah, so it's something like this. You see. So when you have your object that you want to plot, I mean the object containing the information on contacts, then you just have to use the plot method, and you pick the column by which you will just do the selection.
Okay. So just actually a second question, and do you need a PhD to be a data scientist?
No, you don't need a PhD to be a data scientist. And I think the more we advance and the more, I think sometimes, I won't say no degree, but it's good to have a PhD when you want to do research or when you want to teach. That's I'm always saying this, and I love teaching. That's why I did mine. But to be a data scientist, you have to be curious. You have to love working with data and be able to learn on your own, because I think these techniques evolve really quickly. So things you learn in a PhD, for example, 10 years ago, maybe they're not relevant anymore. So if you're not curious and you don't challenge yourself, then you'll be just outdated. So having these qualities, I think, are more important than having any degree. So having said that, if you need a job, it's another discussion. But being good at just working with data, I think you can really now learn on your own. There's a lot of online courses, and you can play with data on Kaggle or Zindi, or even like follow a lot of tutorials. I think you can learn pretty quickly. But if you like research, I still publish, and I love really sometimes taking my time to do things and not just working on emergencies. Then do your PhD. I think PhD is really about, for me, that's still about research and teaching.
Okay, just a sort of follow-up question related to that. So in Africa, to develop as a data scientist, like the European context would be different. Even in Ireland, the context would be different from London, okay, about how to develop as a data scientist. So in West Africa, like what would, if somebody has aspirations there, anything that would be very specific to the region, like,
That's a good question. And I think now with globalization, to be honest, the difference are not that high actually. It's true, we still have these classical trainings. I was trained in statistics, and people are even trained in computer science. But now I think data science is really not the new thing. It's not new, but it's the thing people want to do. For example, in Dakar, where I'm staying, there's a lot of groups. There's the iUser group I created like 6 or 7 years ago. And there is now a new group called Galsen AI. They are mostly about artificial intelligence, and they are really doing an amazing job, like doing presentations, sharing tools, doing tutorial for free. And they are really good because they are developing their own tool. They are doing natural language processing in their own language. By own, I mean African language. So I think today, if I have to speak for 2020, maybe it's biased because I know many of them, and maybe it'll be a little bit biased. But in Africa, maybe what we are lacking is probably more awareness. That's why the work of Africa R to show what R is to some people is really helpful, or what R Forward does when they find out sometimes people like the work the colleagues did in Southern Africa and going to many countries and discussing, trying to create our user group. It's really the work we need to do. I mean, more advocacy, but in terms of pure talent and willingness to do things, you will see a lot of people, because I think a lot of hardcore mathematicians, to be honest, they can do a lot of, like, solve a matrix just in front of you like this, but they probably don't know what R is. They tend to reduce. To be honest, in Dakar, it's really, we have a lot of tech communities, a lot of dev, and now more data scientists. But the only thing is the now job market. We now have few jobs that say we want a data scientist, but it's not like in Europe and in other countries. They still say, okay, we want a monitoring evaluation or a statistician or an economist. And that's what you have more here in the market. But now more and more, and things are evolving really, really fast. So
good. Following on, well, in the comments there, people said hello, and we had visitors from the Central African Republic, Nigeria, Mali, Rwanda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Burkina Faso, and Uganda. So there's a very strong African R community. So you mentioned the Africa R there. Can you just actually a sort of second question is to discuss Africa R and the importance of the R community and community.
I didn't get the question very well, but I think it's like about Africa R, right? And the work we are doing. Seriously, Africa R was a necessity, and I want to thank like Shell in particular, but also Denis and other people from the team like Belba and Anisette from Côte d'Ivoire. And the work we are doing as Africa R is really, all of us in our own, we are setting up our own groups. I set up the Dakar group like years ago, and I know Anisette in Côte d'Ivoire also did, and Shell was also working a lot with the our user group in Kenya, but we just realized that we have gaps. And we have countries where we don't have our user group. And our user group, why our user group? Because I think it's a good way to learn. It's a good way to connect with people using R. And even it's a good way to get a job actually for students and people, because just because of the network effect. So we decided to team up and create this Africa R and work towards really making sure that our people are aware of R in Africa, supporting them when they want to create an R user group, making sure that we can hear our voice also as African R user. That's really important. And now I think we're also trying more and more to build tools that are relevant for our continent. I think Shell built, for example, a really nice package, getting the Kenya census data into a really good format. If you play with this type of data, you know how tedious it can be to just get something. So that's the type of things we want to do. And we hope also to organize soon. I don't have that date. I will let Shell announce this type of things, but more conference and events at the continental level. So yeah.
That's excellent. So hopefully a lot of our viewers will be getting their presentations ready now and getting their topics ready for this conference. That's great. Just actually a question there from Lorenzo, who previously gave a presentation. What are the main obstacles to the adoption of R in the UN organizations?
That's a good question. It depends on the organization. I think usually when you want to use open and free software is like it's the same issue usually, because I think UN organization, the way they work is really corporate. So they have contracts, Microsoft and organization sharing their own tool, or maybe for historical reason, they were using SPSS. So when you come and say, oh, I need to use R and do this, sometimes you have laptops when you can not even install software because you don't have just the proper right or things. So I think now for what I know, it's not really difficult. I think for most organizations, you can use it on your own. And for some, it's really even almost a corporate tool to do a lot of analysis. So today is really way better than what it was, like even 5 years ago. So I won't say it's really hard now. I think it's okay. But in many, in the process of creating data product and many things, you still have, for example, if you want to advocate of the use of R just as a single GIS tool, I think it would be difficult because people say, oh, it's ArcGIS or even QGIS. But we all know now, I think, I believe today that I think R as a GIS tool is really something sustainable, because I think I'm using R like that for the past 2 years without any other external tool, and I can do maps and do any type of spatial analysis in general. So I think you need to convince your boss, you need to show what you can do and create awareness to just improve that. But just to quickly answer to your question, I think it's better than what it was 5 years ago. So just something in the middle, not really hard actually. But that's based on the organization I know. Maybe for some it can be difficult.
Good stuff. Sorry, just actually something I forgot to mention is for everyone, all the viewers at home, that you can follow Africa R on Twitter with the hashtag Africa R users. So if you're on Twitter, you can follow that account and to sort of see what progress the organization has been making. You mentioned Anisette in the Côte d'Ivoire. So was there the Saturdays there in the Côte d'Ivoire took place there earlier in the year?
Yeah, and it was the first Saturday in Africa, and in Francophone West Africa, in my region actually, because we are in a part where we speak French. And Anisette is really dynamic. He's doing a lot of things in Côte d'Ivoire to make sure people know about art. He's not alone, he has a team with Evans and other really great guys. So when he reached out about organizing this, I was really happy and was ready to support 100%. So I went there and we had a really, really cool Saturday discussing about Bayesian statistics, how to use ggplot and so many other things. It was really a cool event, and I'm sure it's not the last. I don't know if I can advertise what Anisette is doing right now, but this Saturday, they also have a Zoom event. So it will be in French, unfortunately, but you can still jump in, actually. I don't know how many people he can take, but they are doing a good job in Côte d'Ivoire, and it's like one of the most, if not the most dynamic group in my region right now.
That's excellent. Yeah, I saw the photos of the Côte d'Ivoire Saturdays, the Abidjan Saturdays, and it looked like a really great event. So just a sort of like a quick question about the Python community in West Africa. So is there a very similar sort of Python community to the R community there? Is Python stronger there, or?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit stronger because you have more developer. It depends on the place. I cannot say just like that. I mentioned the Galsen AI community in Dakar. They are doing mostly machine learning, and they are mostly using Python. I'm usually not the only, but I'm the R guy, and they like to tease me a little bit about that. But I can defend myself, so it's fine. So I would say, in terms of community, it's difficult to assess, because if you say, okay, PHP, for example, I would say, okay, there's more PHP than, for example, Python. Okay. That's funny. Yeah, that's funny because of web dev and this type of JavaScript, there's more. But Python, I think, I don't know, we have to assess. It's difficult. But in terms of community, they don't have a Python user group, for example. And for what I can see, it's mostly about people doing machine learning, AI, and some web developers also, or even some sysadmin that like to play with it. So they're a bit scattered. You don't have them in groups, and so it's difficult really to have a sense of how many there are.
Yeah. Another question from Shell. Ahmadou, do you think that African universities have adopted R much in teaching spatial analytics? Is there more that needs to be done? What advice would you give lecturers in the field? So spatial analytics, yeah.
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I was not trained in space. I learned on my own because of jobs and what I was supposed to do. But my understanding is, and discussing with friends having this type of degree, is like they are usually using classical stuff. So ArcGIS is taught at university, now more and more QGIS. And it's mostly just GIS, but the analytic part, I can just speak about Senegal and Mali that I know very well. I don't see much. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see a lot of program. Now you have in statistics sometimes some schools or some teachers that love really geostatistics or certain approach, and they can teach it, but it's not mainstream actually. And advice, it depends. If you're a teacher, then I think you need to jump in and start using R, particularly the book of Robin Lovelace and the one Geocomputation with R or something. This book is really amazing. I think there is so many information. It's really easy to read. And following, for example, this one on a semester can really help a lot of students learn about many cool methods of geospatial analysis. So it's the same as the UN question, actually. When you're in a place where R is not used or certain type of analysis, you definitely need to do advocacy. When I started my degree, actually, I was the first student in my class using R. They was using Stata, other tools. And at the beginning, people were making fun of me. And I think after 3 years, and when we graduated 3 years after that, I think like 90% of the class was using R. And that's how it is. Usually you have to believe in this and push and show how you can do, particularly show the quality of the work and the output and the report and things you can do, something really tangible that they can see. And then they can say, oh, now I can do this with R, so maybe I can start invest and learn this tool.
Good stuff. I just leave the time open for more questions just on the YouTube channel. Just previously, you mentioned SDGs, which I believe are Sustainable Development Goals. I think like R has a lot of scope for addressing questions in Sustainable Development Goals. Like you mentioned, R econepi, and other things as well, like drought and agriculture and forestry.
And for example, for SDG is really direct. I was mentioning SDG 2. There is many. I think there's 17 development goal and sustainable development goal. And the second one, for example, for us working at FAO is like one of the most important because it's like zero hunger. So we don't want to have anyone experiencing hunger anymore. And to monitor that, we have one indicator called FIES, which is like a scale of hunger to monitor like the percentage of people that are undernourished. And so this indicator is like the corporate indicator to measure the progress of each country when it comes to this SDG 2 on zero hunger. And if you look at the tools FAO use, it's mostly R. It's based on psychometric approach and item response theory, but this is when you want to dig into statistics. But when you look at all the tool set, the pipeline is mostly R. They have a lot of statisticians really skilled and good at using this. And so when you see this beautiful report that FAO does and you see, oh, this country made a lot of progress when it comes to this SDG 2, then make sure you can bet 100% that R is like behind all this analysis. And when it comes to the rest, I think that's what I said at the last slide, my conclusion, that R is more and more mainstream when it comes to many type of analysis because of the rich ecosystem. We have so many packages, so many books, and the community is really amazing. So I think I'm confident that in few years it will be like more and more. We have way more users in all sectors, not just the humanitarian one, also the development. In forestry, you have a lot of cool tools to do some analysis. When I was at the Saturday event in Côte d'Ivoire, the guy that presented the Bayesian analysis was a guy working on forestry type of problem, on trees and things like that. But he was so good in statistics that I thought he was a statistician. And he's also using R for so many years. So yeah. So overall, I think that's why also now being analyst or data scientist is really a good bet in Africa because you have a lot of opportunity, particularly if you, like me, you want to apply your skills for good and help people while having fun and doing cool stuff, then please just try to learn and see how you can, for example, join an NGO like Red Cross or something like that and show your work, and you can have a good position actually.
Good stuff. I know that there's a lot of very interesting work in Africa to do with forestry, agriculture, water, and zoology. There's a lot of very interesting things going on there. I think we are finished here. I think we'll. I'm just looking. Sorry, I'm just looking back and forth for questions, and I think we'll leave it there. So thanks very much, Ahmadou. It's great to have you, and thanks for everyone from all the countries who joined us today. And hopefully, you will be watching us in the future, or you'll be giving the presentation to us in the future. And we'll keep an eye out for Africa R users on Twitter. So it's Africa R with users at the end of the Twitter handle. Or you can find us on forwards as well. Just hashtag #RStats and forwards. You should be able to find us. And that's it. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, folks. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks everyone again, and hope to catch up with you on Twitter or any other venue. So thanks again, whyr, for organizing all of this, and Kevin. Thanks a lot.
Kevin, Marcin, and everyone. Okay, great. We'll leave it there. So I'm going to leave it there, and we'll see you next week, folks. Goodbye.